Hello everyone, my name is Rhoda Ebon, fashion and brand consultant and principal consultant for RTF Company. And today I'd like to share with you 3 tips on how to put together a collection. Now, as a fashion brand or a fashion designer, your lookbook or your collection is what you use, is your marketing tool, is what you use in getting the attention of the general public, the press, your end users, the customers/clients. But basically you use that as a tool to let people know what you've currently worked on, the collection you have at hand, and there's usually a story to that collection. Most times designers just make random clothes and just put it together. That doesn't necessarily make it a collection. It can just be like different items of clothes, but not necessarily a collection. A collection typically has some sort of synergy to it. It typically has some sort of story to it. There's a balance, there's a color scheme, there's a fabric scheme, each piece introduces the next piece, and ultimately everything is in sync. So in putting together a collection, first of all, you must know what you're designing and who you're designing for. What you're designing, what's the story, what's the inspiration, what are you being inspired by a particular trend? Are you being inspired by a particular situation? Are you being inspired by your end users, your customers? Because sometimes your customers and your end users can inspire a collection. Are you being inspired by the environment around you? And ultimately, who are you designing for? Who are the end users? If you're into luxury, if you're into making luxury designs, probably your end users are high-end users who appreciate luxury fabrics, who appreciate luxury finishing. And if you're into high street, obviously, but you're being motivated by your high street clients. So basically you have to balance out what you're designing and who you're designing for. It's not enough to have like different random pieces in store and you put it together. That doesn't make it a collection. Ultimately, it's just a bunch of products, literally. So that's number 1 tip: know who you're designing and what you're designing. The second tip to putting together a collection and ultimately a lookbook is knowing how to balance between creativity and commercial. A lot of times people design pieces that they cannot ultimately sell, unless if you're designing for the pleasure of designing, or you're designing for yourself, or you're designing by just the creativity of it, just to exercise your creativity. But if you're designing to sell, if you're designing to meet a market need, if you're designing with retailing in mind as a goal or as a purpose, you have to find a way to balance between creativity and being commercial, meaning that you're designing, you infuse a bit of creativity to it, but you know that you're trying to sell as well. Which brings me back to point number 1: know who you're designing for. So if your end users, your clientele appreciate creativity, but they still need to be able to wear it, so you have to find a way to balance both. And then of course your environment. So if you're in an environment where your pieces need to be really wearable, they need to be very functional, the weather, obviously you can't be designing pieces that are too thick for a hot weather or too light for a cold weather, or literally your customers can't, your immediate customers can't see themselves wearing it, or it's not just very functional, or it's too artsy, it's too bulky, it's too flimsy. You have to find a way as a designer. You know your brand ethos, you know your brand aesthetic, you know what your brand vision is ultimately. So you have to find a way to balance between being creative and being commercial. That is if selling and making money is your end goal. Number 3 tip in putting together a collection/lookbook is your styling of the lookbook, because your lookbook is your marketing tool. It's the way you engage your customers, engage press, and then you literally, as a brand, because you know where you're going and what your target is, you know who you have to find a balance between the press and the customers, the retail potential online buyers and all that. You know what I mean? So you as a brand know what your target is. So if your target is to attract your customers for sales, you're not going to be styling your lookbook editorial style. And by editorial style, I'm saying like layering or putting together some not necessarily constructive pieces. If your collection is too artsy, or it's too editorial styled, it means your direction is to get visibility from editors, press, art directors, and all of that. You know what I mean? But if your direction or your end use is to get visibility for the customers and maybe retail opportunities, you want to be styling your lookbook in a wearable way, meaning that you want to style it in a way that engages your customers on, okay, this is how I can wear this piece. Oh, okay, this is how these pieces can be mixed and matched. Oh, this is how these pieces can be worn, or this is where I can wear it to. So your style direction should be in a way that is more wearable, like in a more personal styling way. But if your direction is to get visibility from editors, fashion editors, press, you know, big magazines, then you want to consider your editorial styling for your lookbook. So you really need to understand your end user. I feel like a lot of the time some brands have kind of mixed it up together, and if some brands who basically want attention from customers or retailers or fashion buyers have styled their lookbook editorial style, and they always wonder, why is nobody paying attention, why are people not buying? Is because of your tool. Your tool is literally, you're marketing the wrong tool to the wrong consumer. And for some time, some people want like press, they want to show how artistic their brand is, and they've literally styled it the wrong way, and you're wondering, why are people not paying attention? So it's like a mixed match. So you really need to understand your brand and where you're taking your lookbook / collection to. So that's it, guys. I hope you've picked 1 or 2 things, and I hope I can see you next time and share more tips on your fashion brand. See you.